People from around the world have always had a fascination in Native American culture and Native Americans themselves. And people have felt that had this fascination since the first people came to North America. And I think part of the reason that people still have a fascination and people like from recent years have had fascinations with Native American people is because that they don't have a not strong knowledge of their culture or anything about them. And I think that's partly to do with a lot of high schools don't require Native American history, which I think is such an important aspect of not only Oklahoma's history, but the United States itself. And then another reason I think people have fascination with it is because people have been talking, we've learned about it since we were so young. Some of the first memories I have personally are doing Thanksgiving like pageant or concerts things with kids in my class and dressing up as some kids were Indians, some kids were pilgrims, and you dressed up, you had field day, and then you had Thanksgiving, and people get this, and so it starts this idea early with kids that, oh, like it's okay to dress up as Native Americans, like it normalizes everything for them, for kids so young, and it's such a dangerous age to normalize something like that for kids because of how impressionable they are so young. And then there's singing redface, which is when a non-Native American person tries to take on the characteristic, the racial archetype of a Native American through song. And this has been going on for a while, and a lot of the problem with it is that the things that these songs are saying are incorrect or not accurate about actual Native American life. And it's leading to stereotypes that people just assume are right and don't ever do any research on. And then racial antipathy is a disliking of a group based on their race. And white people started to have these negative feelings towards Native Americans because they were always portrayed as the villains on the movies, or they heard terrible things about them in songs, or they just heard they did weird things in songs, or they were just always the butt of the joke for people. And so people just always started to see them as just not as people that it was okay to be rude to or do these terrible things to because all the movies have always done it. And then sympathy is, it's a double-edged sword. It's not like people love to get sympathy for certain things, but then too much sympathy can bring negative attention to a subject, where if you're talking about a stereotype all the time and just being sympathetic towards all these people are going to hear is that stereotype that you're being sympathetic for. And so all they're going to think about when they think of that group of people is that stereotype, and not necessarily that you were feeling sympathetic for them, but that was that stereotype about them, and oh, it must be true then. And then cultural misappropriation is taking any type of object, tangible or non-tangible, and you're used from a different culture, not your own culture, and you are trying to use that thing that you took from someone else's culture for an economic gain, or it's to intentionally create a stereotype, and that's why you took the thing from someone else's culture. And in my mind, it's such a major reason why stereotypes form is the economic factor behind it. Companies wouldn't continually produce movies that had these Native American stereotypes, or continually to sell costumes like Native American costumes for Halloween, like sexy Native American or like Indian, all these costumes that should be considered immoral and not allowed, but because they know that they're going to continue to sell, they don't really care, and they continue to do it. And the fact that all these businesses get to profit off of these stereotypes that aren't even true about Native Americans is very immoral. And then cultural confusion is not knowing about someone else's culture. And so when you don't know about someone else's culture, and then you hear information, you aren't going to know if that information is accurate or authentic or not, because you don't have any of the information on your own to say, oh, that's not right. And not knowing, being uneducated can just lead to so many instances that you could be saved from if you just had a little bit of basic knowledge about someone's culture. Blackface minstrelsy was a form of American theater that white men would essentially just dress up and they would paint their faces black, and it was supposed to be a comedic sketch that all the jokes were aimed at African American people, and they were supposed to make them feel small and show that white people were this superior person in this situation.